Section 4.6, Polynomial Inequalities. This is going to be one of the easiest sections that you go through. You're going to be using your calculator a lot. So what you're going to do is take equations like this and figure out when they're 0, when they're less than or greater than 0, or when they're less than or equal to or greater than or equal to 0. So the first thing you need to do, and we've done this part before, is factor it. Let's see, so 2 factors of 21, opposite signs that add up to positive 4 would be positive 7 and negative 3. So this would give me zeros at negative 7 and positive 3. So the solution set here is negative 7, positive 3. For the rest of it, though, you have to graph this. So go to your calculator and graph this equation, remembering that we cross the x-axis at negative 7 and 3. And when you graph it, you're going to get a parabola opening upward, kind of looking like this, and it's crossing at negative 7, 0, and at 3, 0. Now, all these zeros here relate to the x-axis. So equals 0 means right on the x-axis. Greater than 0 means above the x-axis. And less than 0 means below the x-axis. So if I look at this first question, where is the function below the x-axis? Well, it's below the x-axis on this little arc right here, between negative 7 and 3. So we write that in interval notation, and we have open brackets because it's strictly less than, and we're not including these endpoints. So let's try greater than 0. Greater than 0 means above the x-axis, or these two arcs right here. So we have this arc, which is negative infinity to negative 7. Negative infinity always gets an open bracket. Negative 7 gets an open bracket because of that sign. And then this arc, which is 3 to infinity. The only difference with these two is now we're including these endpoints, or the points that are on the x-axis. So less than or equal to 0 is going to be the same as this little arc down here, but now I'm including those endpoints. And I indicate that by the closed bracket symbol. Likewise, this is going to be the same as this, but now I'm including the negative 7 and the 3. Negative infinities always get open brackets, so do positive infinities. But I'm including the 7 and the negative 7 and 3. So I indicate that by the closed brackets. And you're going to run into ones that look like this. What we did before will not work unless we have a 0 out here. So what we're going to do is bring everything over to one side. And get a 0 on one side. And again, when I bring these two things over across the inequality, I change the signs. That's an X. Okay, and now I simplify. And I have to factor this. So 2 factors of 10, opposite signs that add to positive 3, will be x plus 5 and x minus 2. Now I graph this. And that's a parabola opening upward and crossing the x-axis at negative 5 and 2. So something like that. And now we're looking for the places where it's greater than or equal to 0. which means above the x-axis and on the x-axis, which will be this branch here, which is negative infinity to negative 5, with a closed bracket because we're including the negative 5, and we're unioning that with 2 to infinity, which is this branch here. And we're done. And lastly, I'm going to show you one that's a little bit confusing. And you'll note these are all the same. So let's just do the factoring of that once. So first I'm going to divide out the x squared. And then I'm going to factor the x squared minus 16 into that, which gives me my critical points at 0, 4, and negative 4. And when I graph that, what I'll get is something that looks kind of like this. So there's my negative 4, my 4, and my 0. So we cross the x-axis at negative 4 and 4, and we touch and bounce off at 0 because of even multiplicity. And now let's look at how that affects these 4. Okay, for less than or equal to 0, what I'm looking for is all these points below the x-axis or on the x-axis. So I'm including this branch, this whole branch, and this branch, which is just going to be negative 4 to 4, and I'm including each of them. So square brackets. Now let's look at the same thing with strictly less than 0. Well, that means I have to open these brackets up, but it also means that when I touch the x-axis here, I have to exclude that 0 point because that 0 point's on the x-axis. It's not strictly below it like this is calling for. So here I have 2 branches. This arc here up to the 0, and then this arc here from the 0 on up to the 4. So we had to exclude the 0 here because it was on the x-axis and not strictly less than. Now let's do the same thing with greater than or equal to and greater than. And let's do the greater than first. So that's looking for anything that's above the x-axis, which is going to be this branch and this branch. This 0 we're going to leave out because it's on the x-axis, but it's not above, and this requires me to be above. So I'm just going to add in this branch and this branch. Now this one is going to be the same thing, but with square brackets here and here. But since I'm also including what's on the x-axis, I have to include that 0. So I'm going to start with this branch. And I'm going to union that with 0. And then this branch. And we're done. And if you could follow me through on this one, you won't have any problems in this section.